first piece we will perform in this program is the cantata, the church cantata number 61, which is an early piece, an early composition by Bach. He was 29 years old and he was in Weimar. He was not yet in Leipzig, so as we know. So it is a cantata written for another city. And in Weimar he was not really busy with cantata writings, and for the church he was more at the service of, he was in the orchestra, so he was performing in the orchestra. So he was much more busy with instrumental compositions, but he now and then he composed a cantata, and this cantata is written for Weimar in 1714. The funny thing in here is that that court in Weimar, where he was performing the orchestra, they were performing a lot of French music, so he was completely full of it. He was performing all the time that, so he included in this cantata French music, French style. So this cantata is a cantata written for the first Sunday of Advent. What is Advent for people who is not Christian? The church calendar, the calendar of church is divided in several times of the year. The first part of the church starts with Advent, which is 4 weeks before Christmas. Christmas is the second section of the calendar. So he starts with the first Sunday of Advent. So we have 4 Sundays of Advent. And Advent has this quality of darkness. Coincidentally, Advent is in, let's say, November, December, so which is always cold and dark in Europe. Advent has sometimes some people call it small Lent, because it's like before Easter, also very dark and very almost no music for the church, very little music. So then there is a big contrast. After 4 weeks Advent, very little music going on, dark color in the church. Suddenly Christmas time is shining and a lot of music and a lot of bells ringing and glorias and so on. So European people like a lot of contrast, and they create this contrast in music as well. So this cantata, written for the first Sunday of Advent, is called Nur kommt der Heiden Heiland, and that is talking about the coming of Christus, coming of Jesus Christ, just coming to be born, coming from heaven to be born as a baby. So it is a preparation for Christmas. So this cantata starts opening with a really French music style, which is an overture, French overture. A French overture is, let's say, invented, some people say invented by Lully, but it's very possible that it was found out by many composers slowly, little by little. Lully used it a lot, and it became like a stamp of the French style, the French overture. So it is very clear. A French overture, for example, the Messiah has a French overture in the introduction, instrumental French overture. So Handel used the French overture a lot in his oratorio and sometimes in the operas as well. So the French overture has the characteristic of starting with a slow movement, kind of maestoso, so majestuoso character, slow and dotted rhythm, so like a wham, pa-pam, 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 something like that. Very French in a way, very like walking slowly and very, very solemn. And from there, without stopping that movement, suddenly the tempo changes and it becomes a fast element, which is normally a fuga, so an imitative piece. But in any case, it's an up-tempo piece, so there's a higher, faster tempo. Sometimes change the the bar sign. So if the dotted rhythm and slow piece is in 4, sometimes the fuga is in 3 to create more contrast, not only in tempo but also in time signature. And then sometimes it finishes there, or sometimes these French overtures have the slow movement dotted rhythm comes back at the end. So we have kind of A-B-A form. So you have slow dotted solemn, something happening in between, something up tempo and very rhythmical and very fast, and then again this slow part again. This is actually this case. So this cantata Bach writes a French overture, which is basically an instrumental piece, but he mixed the choir fantastically with the music of the instruments. So the overture is for the orchestra only, but he add there vocal parts. And so it is like an experiment, but it's a wonderful experiment. The result is wonderful. So he creates a vocal instrumental French overture. And so it serves like an opening for this cantata, but also it's an opening for the Christmas. So it is it's a kind of overture for the year, because we said the church year starts in Advent. So after this French overture, which is a wonderful movement, then comes a recitativo, secco recitativo, which means, and that is one of the first recitativos secos Bach writes. Why? Because he comes from stylistically more like Buxtehude style and Pachelbel style, that is more non-secco recitativo, more written, everything is written out in movements, and they are like a cantata 106 and another cantatas, all there are very slow movements attached to each other without secco recitativos. But this cantata is one of the first he composed with text of new master, that is a religious text writer from that time, and he this new master he started to borrow from opera, writing for the Lutheran Church texts for music, and he borrowed the system of operatic aria, so recitativo aria, that Bach will use all the time for all cantatas of Leipzig time, and also the oratorio, so the passions, so Johannes Passion, Matthäus Passion, Christmas oratorio. He will use always secco recitativo, Italian secco recitativo style, followed by duets, arias, solos. So the secco recitative was new for him somehow in a way. I'm sure he listened to operas in that time, but for him to write down a recitativo was somehow a kind of new stuff. So after a secco recitativo of the tenor comes an aria from the tenor who says, "Come, Christus, come to earth, be born and come to help us, come to stay with us." After that, we have Jesus that answers, and Jesus in the voice of a baritone, always like that. In Johannes and Matthäus Passion, Jesus is a baritone of a bass. So Jesus says, "I am clapping the door," and that is a wonderful movement because it's all accompanied by strings pizzicato, which is also not common. Strings play always, violins play, violin, viola, cello, contrabass play with bow. But it was a special effect because in the text says Christus is knocking the door. So that knocking of the door is heard on the pizzicato, everybody playing at the same time, the chords very vertical, and you hear like pak, 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 pak. So if somebody is knocking the door, and that is Jesus. So Jesus sings an arioso on that accompaniment of knocking the door, and after that comes a soprano aria who says open the door, but it's not open the door, it's open your heart. So it is very, the text from that time is very poetic. So Jesus clap and he says I'm clapping, so somebody opens, and then the soprano, which was a child singing, so very pure, will say open your heart to the audience, open your heart and leave Jesus go in. So not open your door, but it's actually the same. Open the door to your heart and leave Jesus. So that is the meaning of the text, and it's very beautifully composed. That after that aria from soprano solo, then the cantata finish with a chorus. It's not a chorale yet, but it's a chorus. Very compact, very short. It's around 1 minute or less, and it's a wonderful piece. So really worth to hear it. So I will recommend. This piece is the opening of the concert of March 5th. So please come and hear it, our performance. Thank you.